Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and like a lot of you, for the past couple months I've been at home with some extra time on my hands, so I decided to use some of that time to do some much needed network upgrades around my house. And so it's interesting that where I started this project about a month ago is actually different from where I'm ending up now. And it's sort of neat to see, my plans going into the project versus how the project changed for various reasons over the course of a month up to and including just very recently, which we'll talk about more towards the end of the video. So I hope you guys enjoy this look at some Crosstalk Solutions home upgrades. All right, so let's look at our before picture, and this is an area of my office that you guys don't really ever get to see. And of course, now you can see why I don't show this on YouTube. It's because it's super embarrassing. This is essentially the result of a bunch of temporary setups that ended up becoming more or less permanent. And as you can see, I just have stuff running under the door. And this is not outdoor rated Cat 5. This is indoor rated Cat 5e. So we have a US 8 120 watt switch, as well as a PoE injector. I think this is for my G4 Pro camera that I have outside. Then I have a Flex HD. So what I'd like to do is move this into this cabinet, clear up this area, probably move the HD up on top up here somewhere. Then of course get rid of these wires that go out under the door. So where do these go? Well, two of them, as you can see, go through this stuff, and it's been so long. Look, it's springtime, so the plants have grown around these wires. But they run essentially over here to this pole that I use outside for testing. And we have a G3 camera as well as a G4 Pro on this pole, as well the Ethernet surge protector as well. And what I want to do is essentially come out of this right here. And I need two cables to do that because sometimes I have 802.3 AF stuff on this pole, and sometimes I have 24-volt passive stuff on this pole. So I'd like two pass-through Ethernet connections from where I sit, which is right here. This is where I actually film my videos. I want them to come through the wall right here so that I have options for what I can put on my sort of testing pole right here, as I need options in the future. So I have some ideas for that, but this is the smaller project. If you look over here, the other cable that comes out of the door here, and I kind of tried to hide this a little bit at one point when I tried to make this a little bit less temporary, but ultimately it's not a great solution. You can see it just runs along the ground. Again, this is not outdoor rated cable, running along the ground. And as we come up to my deck here, you can see that this actually looked a lot better when I first put it in, but now over time it has sort of sagged down. And this cable basically just runs right up under my deck, all the way around. Look at that, it just looks terrible. Plus the cable's blue, just looks terrible. And comes all the way up to the top here, across my little stairs, and then into this little test setup that I have over here, which has a G3 Pro camera that is running off of the 24-volt pass-through of this NanoStation M5. The NanoStation M5 connects across to my solar setup, which is over there. You can see the other NanoStation right about here. So I have this outdoor rated Cat 6 wiring that I bought a long time ago. This is 500 feet of cable, should be more than enough to replace all this junky cable that I have here. And instead of going in front of the deck, I'm going to try to go underneath or on the back side, at least somewhere where the cable's completely hidden, and then underneath the deck. And I want to pop out, right here somewhere, where I can actually run it through the wall into the garage. So instead of going across to this little setup that I've got over here, I'm going to terminate to the garage, and that way I have more options. Inside the garage, here's my Tesla wall charger. I want to come out right here and then basically terminate that cable. On the wall here below the wall charger, I'm going to put my usw-industrial switch. Now that has 802.3 BT capability, which will allow me to then run a camera up over here and put a G4 camera, a G4 Pro camera, maybe right here on the corner of the house, sort of out of reach where you'd have to have a ladder to get to it, but then it can sort of keep an eye on my driveway. I also have up in the corner over here We have this uap-ac-lr, which is a 24-volt passive device. Right now it's just plugged in with a PoE injector, and it is functioning as a repeater out here in the garage. So rather than have this be a repeater, I would like to actually hardwire that so that it is not in repeater mode anymore, and it's actually a solid access point out here in the garage. Having a switch in my garage is also going to be great for other projects that I have been thinking of doing throughout the yard. I do still need to get a cable out here to this little nano station that's on this pole in my front yard that connects over to my solar setup. But that'll be a lot easier once I have a switch that's a lot closer to that location. And then of course, other projects I can use that switch for as well. All right, so the biggest thing is going to be running this cable, and it's about a, about a 60-foot run, or 60 feet worth of cable from point A to point B. And so that's where I'm going to start, and hopefully I can get that done today. If I can get that done, the rest of it is actually pretty simple. I was thinking of going through the wall right here, or more kind of in this area, and then just running it under the windowsill. But as I was pulling out the other wire, I noticed this old coaxial connection that's already going through the wall. So if we look out here, this is where it comes out. It's not actually connected to anything. And then if you follow the cable over, it goes under the window, up the wall to here, and then it goes up into this room right here, which is a bedroom where we're not using it. So we don't use this coaxial connection in that bedroom at all. So I might just snip it off up here, pull all of this off of the wall, and then that way I can reuse this hole here and not have to drill through the wall on this side, which frankly is preferable. All right, so we're really going to be cutting it close as to where the siding lines up and where I can actually punch through the wall on the other side. I'd like the cable to run right underneath one of these pieces of siding. This one is almost too low, but I don't want to go up a whole nother 6 inches or so. I would like to get through here, and I've measured it 3 times. I think this will work, but you don't know until you actually go for it. So I guess we just need to go for it. All right, I think we're good. Let's check the other side. All right, perfect. That is exactly what I wanted. There you can see that the drill bit came straight through, almost dead center, and just less than an inch above the 2x6s here. Perfect. Now, pro tip, if you are gonna run cable through a wall like this, drill through and then unscrew the drill bit from your drill. That way you can just tape the cable to the back of the drill bit and pull it through and bring the cable through the hole that way. All right, now the part that I am looking forward to the least, and that is cabling the side of the house. I'm gonna put the spool of cable all the way down there and then pull it this way and eventually bring it all the way to the garage. But yeah, this is gonna take a while, and this is my least favorite part of the job. Now to affix the cable to the wood in the side of the house, I'm using these grip clips. These are they have a little screw, and then of course you can just put the cable right through there. This opens up, put the cable in, and then screw it directly into the wood siding, or in my case the underside of the deck, whatever you happen to be screwing it into. Now these work much better, and they last a lot longer than the ones that you can get from like Monoprice that just have a nail that you nail in. All right, down here is where we are coming in from my office. That is working great. And we are feeding into one of the non-PoE ports on the usw-industrial. From the usw-industrial, I'm also going out to the UVC G4 Pro. And check this out. So I use these blocks like this, which basically terminate a custom cable into a female Cat 6 jack in here. These are keystone jacks. The reason I do this is for flexibility. So I do this with my client sites as well. If you ever want to change this out, you don't have to rerun this whole cable. So if I put a male end on this cable, the length has to be, basically perfect to get here with the service loop or whatever. But in this case, I can just terminate to this female jack and then do whatever I want coming out of that female jack. So if this solution ever changes, or if I switch this out for some other type of switch, or if I want to move it somewhere, I don't have to rerun my custom, Cat 6 run that comes out to the G4 Pro camera. So that goes up and up and up through my rafters. And then there is the camera itself up there. So that has been working great. I'll try to get a better shot of it. And that camera is keep an eye on my driveway. Now I want to put at least one more camera in here that is for my front deck. And I also need to run a line over to my nanostation setup that goes over to the solar setup, which I have a plan for, and it's just going to take a lot of work. That's actually a harder run than this one to do because it's longer, and I got to be up on ladders and all that sort of stuff. So the other thing that I want to do is put an access point right here. So I have the uap-ac-lr. This is what I have been using in my garage. And this works great. I don't need anything more than this. The problem is the usw-industrial does not do 24 volt passive. So that means if I plug this in, I get no power whatsoever on the access point, right? Because this is a 24 volt passive access point. Now I do have some access points that are 802.3 AF. The problem is they're like an in-wall HD, I've got a nano HD, I've got a uap-ac Pro. Those are all way, way overkill for out here in my garage, right? So I do want to reuse this if I can. So the answer is to use one of these guys. And this is the INS-3AF-I-G. And what this does is it gets PoE in, so you can see right there, PoE in 802.3 AF, and on the other side is 24 volt passive out. So it's not the prettiest solution because you have to have this extra thing in the way, but this allows us to convert 802.3 AF into 24 volt passive to power up that access point. Let's go ahead and plug it in now. Try to do this with one hand here. So there we have 802.3 AF in. And plugging in the access point, now we can see that it's lighting up, right? So this is going to work, and I'll just mount this right here below my Tesla wall charger, kind of centered about on this board right here. And that'll work just fine for out here in the garage. All right, there we go. Final product installed. We're coming out of the switch into the 802.3 AF to 24 volt passive PoE converter and then into our uap-ac-lr. And honestly, this setup is making me kind of wish I painted this backboard before I did all this work, but that's all right. It'll be fine. Since I now have that switch in the garage, I've been finding more and more things that I would like to do to extend the networking throughout my home. And one of those places where I don't get spectacular coverage is up here in my loft. Now in my loft, it's far enough away from the access points and sort of up in a different level. And we have a family computer up here that doesn't get spectacular Wi-Fi. I actually have to have a little USB Wi-Fi dongle on an extension cable that I run closer to where the Wi-Fi access point is in order for this computer to pick up Wi-Fi. So I've always wanted to get a hardwired connection up here or an access point of some sort up in this area. And now that I have access to that switch in the garage, I can do it. I found this right here, which is an old coaxial connection. And this has plenty of slack where I can attach a Cat 6 cable from here and then pull it through the garage. Here's another look at it. Where I just was is right about this part of the window here, and you can see this whole section right here. This is all just empty space inside this section of roof above my laundry room, and then here we have my garage. Now, from here, I have an access port where I can actually pull that coaxial cable all the way straight through here, and then from there I'll have it into the garage and I can just run it down and over to the switch, which is just on the other side of the wall here. All right, here you can see where I'm going to pull the cable through. This goes through to my loft area, and this, let's see if I can't get this to stay. This cable right here I've already identified as the one that's connected to that coaxial wall plate on the other side. So it should be pretty easy just to pull this straight through once I've got the one end of a Cat 6 connected to this coaxial cable. Alright, so I've got everything wired up, and I went with the in-wall HD just because I had a couple extras of these, and I really like the form factor of this access point. It's way overkill in terms of wireless access for this area, but it does have 4 separate wired ports on the bottom, including 1 PoE out, which is super important if I ever wanted to put a voice over IP phone up in this area or anything like that. So the other thing I really like about these in-wall HDs is that they have the skins, and of course the skins are always fun. The one that I'm going with is the black skin for the in-wall HD, and of course those just pop on just like that. Next, I need to get my point-to-multi-point access point back up and running. I used to have it on a pole that was sort of just a cable strung across the ground. Now we're going to do it in a more permanent fashion, and it's going to have to connect over to my solar panel, which is right back over here. So the station side is over there. We're going to be using the NanoStation AC for this project because the NanoStation AC can be powered by 802.3 AF PoE, and I don't have to use another one of those 802.3 AF to 24 volt converters for that NanoStation, and it'll work just fine. We're going to be putting it somewhere in this general area right here, right on the side of my garage. And we're going to use an eth-sp, so the Ethernet surge protector. That's this little guy right here. We're going to put this on the wall, and the reason that we're doing that is for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's going to make it relatively weather resistant, considering this is outside. It also, of course, does provide some level of lightning protection, though, you know, arguable how much that is. But the real reason I'm using it is to make it flexible, right? So if I take a cable and I hardwire it permanently into that eth-sp surge protector, I can then use the out from that surge protector in many different configurations, right? So if I change out the access point, if I want to switch to a point-to-multipoint, a light beam AC, or anything else that I want to do with the access point that's going to be in this general area, I will have the flexibility to do so by terminating the cable not into the access point itself, but into the eth-sp, which then I can use any sort of size cable I want to run out to whatever access point I happen to be using or testing or setting up. Alright, so I now have a mounting arm installed on the wall, and I also changed up the eth-sp a little bit so that it has this drip loop now. I've been posting progress on Twitter. If you guys don't follow me on Twitter, it's at crosstalksol. And when I originally posted the picture of this, a lot of people brought up that, hey, you don't have a drip loop. And I was originally going to silicone seal it in there, which I still am going to, but they're right? I should have a drip loop. So luckily, I left myself a service loop just on the other side of this wall, and I was able to take about half of that service loop and then create this drip loop here so that water doesn't get into this hole. Now, for this pole, I'm going to be adding a NanoStation AC. Now, the reason that I'm going with the NanoStation AC is because on one side of this link, I have the industrial switch, which is 802.3 AF AT-BT, but not 24 volt passive. And then on the other side, I have my Ubiquiti solar point, which is only 24 volt passive, right? So the NanoStation AC can be powered by either 802.3 AF or 24 volt passive. So this is going to work for both sides of this point-to-point link. And we're not really going that far. Here, I'll flip the camera around. Over to that greenhouse right there, right underneath that solar panel is where we're going. Now it's a little bit obstructed in terms of the line of sight from access point to station, but it's close enough that it's not going to matter. I mean, it's obstructed by a semi-opaque greenhouse, so I don't think it'll be a big problem. We're only talking about 50-foot point-to-point link here. So I'm going to get this installed next, and then I'm going to install the other NanoStation AC on the other side, and hopefully my solar point will come back online, because it's been offline for close to 2 months now, and I want to get back into that thing. I don't know how easy this is to see, but we have full bars on our NanoStation AC. All right, here's a look at the final install of the NanoStation AC and the G3 Pro camera. So some notes here. Couple people on Twitter said I should have clipped off these zip ties right here, but these are those big reusable zip ties that come with the NanoStation. So I don't want to cut them off because it's they're reusable. I can use them again. And it doesn't look spectacular, but that's okay. Then up here, we have the G3 Pro camera, and I was originally going to put the G3 Pro onto the wall right here, but I had enough space on the pole since I shifted the NanoStation AC down a little bit, and I figured I'd just put it on the pole. On the wall, it would be a little bit more protected from the elements because it's underneath the rain gutter here. But I've already had this G3 Pro camera out in the elements for over a year, like directly out in the elements, not protected by anything, and it's been perfectly fine. It's a champ. I mean, it's still going strong here. So I think it's going to be just fine right there. All right, here we get a look at the finished product for now. We've got our 3 cables going out to the G4 camera, up to my loft area, and then to that point-to-multipoint setup right there. We've got the uap-ac-lr with the 24 volt conversion, and of course our industrial switch. And these cables are a little bit long because I only had 3-foot cables. I got to replace them with some shorter cables, but other than that, this is basically complete. All right, so one of the last projects I had on my list was to sort of get these wires coming off the equipment on this pole. Currently they run along the ground and then just kind of go under the door here, which of course looks absolutely terrible. Instead, I wanted to run them right here so that I could just have an easy pass-through of a couple Ethernet links from my office out to this sort of test pole that I have set up. And a lot of things have changed throughout the course of, the 6 weeks that I've been working on these projects. I had the other NanoStation pole up at the top of the property where I ended up not using that at all and just sort of shifting it to the side of the house. I had an additional camera that I was interested in installing on my deck. I didn't end up doing that, and the reason is things change very, very quickly. We are now moving out of this house. So I did not expect that to be the case when I started filming this video, but now towards the end of the video, we have put an offer on a different house and we are going to be packing everything up and moving. So rather than drilling more holes into the side of this house, instead, we're gonna take down this pole completely, and that'll be the end of the Crosstalk Solutions test pole until at least I can get into a new house and set it back up again. So that's next on the list. Let's go ahead and tear this thing down. It's going to be sad to leave this place. I've done a ton of videos here, but onward and upward, and life goes on. All right, there we go. This pole is now all clean of equipment, And while I'm not going to be able to take advantage of the Cat 6 cables that I ran all throughout this house and all over the property, hopefully whomever moves into this house next will appreciate that that has been done. Okay, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please click subscribe. Just be forewarned that in the next 2 months or so, my video making capability is going to be significantly reduced by moving this house. So hopefully I'm going to try to get at least one video out a week over the next 2 months, and then we will be back to my normal 2 video a week schedule. All right guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.